Okay, I believe that should be okay now. And okay, let's just a second here. I'll just go on camera for a second. This is the 10th Keshe Public Teaching Workshop, and we're ready to begin here. And we have Mr. Keshe from the Keshe Foundation, as well as many of the knowledge seekers from the Spaceship Institute, and many other people from all around the world that are watching this 10th workshop, and it promises to be a bit of a blockbuster, I think. So let's get started right away, and I'll just turn it over to Mr. Keshe, and he'll have a few things to say and lead the discussion here. Mr. Keshe, would you like to begin, or should we announce some of the translators that are on the go-to meeting, or would we like to introduce the Spaceship Institute people?
Yes, please introduce them. We know who they are.
Okay. As far as the Spaceship Institute people, we have well, Armin and John and Marek and Marco and Yukako, and who am I missing out of that bunch? Maybe one or two other names.
Me.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Mayran Keshe, the leader of that gang of, group of knowledge seekers. No, it's a wonderful group of people. Pardon me?
Oh.
And
we have Orge here as well.
Orge, is that the name? Sorry.
Okay. I can't pronounce his name. It's easier to call him Jose. Jorge from Spain.
Okay, good. And then on the go-to meeting, Vince, could you sort of say who's there, or shall I? I do know that.
No, we have Ahmed from Boston in the U.S. translating to Arabic. We also have Charles translating to Chinese. If anybody else is translating, could you please speak up on GoToMeeting and introduce yourself? Thank you.
Okay, just trying to find Casimir. He was supposed to be on here. There's some other people that are also translating in different ways. We have Ahmed that's translating in Arabic, and there's Spanish.
We need him because there's some information here that the Arab world has to know and need to know.
Right. And we've also got, we have the Chinese translation, as we know, and there should be also a Bulgarian going out. And, of course, as soon as this program gets out, there will also be transcriptions and translations into many languages after that as well. So, yeah. Okay, would you like to continue, Mr. Keshe?
I would like to welcome everyone on all the channels and everyone who's listening. And at the same time, today is the first time we present a workshop as the original team of knowledge seekers in Italy. What we promised for a long time, and we could not achieve it in Belgium. It has taken us more or less exactly to the week, in 1 year, to establish and set up the institute to teach to every man on this planet the technology. that our goal to share knowledge freely can be achieved. We released patents, we informed the governments, and now we are teaching what we call the teachers of the next generation. The knowledge seekers around this table have enough within them to translate and start teaching in coming months to those who want to learn. The procedure we have put in motion is that knowledge seekers, they can introduce themselves very soon if they want to. And from day one, we have not held back anything to them or from them. So much so that literally any technology, more or less, that we could remember up to today in the past 2 weeks has been shown. All systems have been displayed or been given to them to see. And they have already started producing the first batch of materials to be shipped to Fukushima. So UKOKO in the Fukushima workshop of last month has received some collaboration or some requests from Japanese people and organizations that they have received some materials UKOKO can explain. And now we are developing the nanomaterial we think is correct to be shipped to Japan to be tested by them independently. The whole purpose of this workshop is when we showed the material about Fukushima last time, how to produce it, a lot of people wanted the proof of concept, or if this is real, or how is it possible to produce nanomaterials so easily. In the documents being released today, and is in the process of being uploaded on the internet, we show that we have been in possession of papers, research papers, which has been done by leading institutes around the world on these materials, which we have given to them to verify and test. And these confidential reports, which we've been forced to keep away from public, now from today are in the public domain, which means there is no restriction for us to release any paper publicly, because as of now, that the Keshe Foundation belongs to the World Foundation. Any contracts signed as a non-disclosure in respect to these researchers, it belongs to every man on this planet. So we are all keeping a confidentiality with it. We won't talk to each other, but we can read it on the internet. So what has been forced deliberately by certain people to be kept away from public in so many ways to discredit and rob the foundation of the information and technology for the World Peace Treaty, now we are releasing. What this means is that we have been in possession of report done by a leading nanotechnology organization in the world, confirming the detection of sp2 and sp3, which is nano layers, as far back as 2006. This report written is released in its totality. And this is a copy report because the original report is totally different, plus addition to what we have released, confirming that sp2 and sp3 is produced in such a simple way on the electrodes you see in the Coca-Cola bottle demonstration. What has happened is that the institute which the electrodes were given to test at the time in 2006 considered and made an allegation to that we use plutonium and uranium and gamma sources to be able to produce sp2 and sp3 in open space as the way we have shown. And they used this false accusation because of their own lack of understanding, at the same time trying to steal the technology to keep us from releasing the information through all sorts of threats. Today we are releasing the full package of this report. And in reality, once it's loaded, you will read it. The report written by the leading nanotechnology group in the world, released on the 6th of July 2006, reads in a simple one of his paragraphs: we observe a spectrum that corresponds very well to one of ACH, or one of glossy carbon, but with B implantation, i.e. with many defects. Following Yoshikawa, this indicates the presence of sp2 carbon clusters on the sample. So in July 2006, we already knew we can produce nanomaterials at zero cost, but we were back down not disclosed because of certain personal interests which we will disclose. And in the same report, we knew it verbally now, but it had to be written in a different way. It reads, if there would be sp3, we would expect a sharp peak near 1343 centimeter. That's in the graph. This is not the case. However, we cannot exclude the possible presence of sp3. Its spectrum might be covered by the 4 sp2 defect line. But we were told prior to writing this report by the scientist who did the report, she has found sp3 indication, but she cannot explain it. So what we talk about nanomaterials and GANs, which is the gases in nano state, was achieved and was developed fully by the Foundation in 2006, independent testing by the organization known as IMEC, IMEC, the leading nanotechnology organization in the world. And we have posted the reports, which says IMEC confidential. It is confidential, but as the foundation is owned by the world population, please keep it to yourselves and don't talk about it to somebody else. This is what is going to be. We'll explain these releases. So what we released as a Fukushima program, last workshop, to be able to decontaminate with a one technology by other scientists around the world that nanomaterials can absorb or can separate the radioactive materials, has already been confirmed nearly 8 years ago for the Foundation. But we could not disclose it because of the threats which was made by the company IMEC and its lawyers, which will disclose the details on the internet, to gag us because of their own private interests. At the same time, in another report done by the Belgian Nuclear SCK, you can see the confirmation of the absorption of the carbon on these electrodes by independent investigation and testing of the SCK, Belgian Nuclear Center, same electrode the following year financed by the Belgian government. The interesting point is that if our technology and the production of SP2, SP3 in the report done by IMEC was so bad and incorrect, how come the following year the Nuclear Center and the Belgian government for the second time want to test this material independently and spend 3 months and a couple of million euros in developing it or testing it? So it's not the conspiracy theory. This will show how a couple of people within the structure of the Belgian government and the nation of Belgium are holding the rest of the nation to ransom for their own private and sexual behavior. This will disclose very soon. I think the coalescence is there to support what we say with names and names. It is important, it's absolutely vitally important that the technology, like what we are releasing, stays free for mankind and not to be controlled by some. And if you don't comply, they try to do all sorts of things to you that they force you to do so. Today, we release documents. These documents is done by the knowledge seekers independently, and in fact, we put the case and the documents to them early this last week or late last week for them to see they are not here to waste their time and work in a dream. The technology has been well tested and proven within the Belgian government, and more, as they found out the more they can do, the more they try to rob and threat. We have disclosed the name of the people who made the threats. And we have released in these documents, once you read it, the name of the organizations who are leading institute within the European Space Program, which in their report or in their emails confirmed are prepared after examination to invest between 300 to 500,000 euro of their own money because they know the technology can be correct and can be developed. And this is done in 2005. We're going back nearly 10 years. We kept silence very much out of the fear of assassination by this gentleman. It's called Mr. Hans Brackenier. Mr. Hans Brackenier, he is known within the political structure of Belgium to have ordered and organized murder of a number of scientists, or has pushed scientists to leave Belgium if they would not hand over the technology to him. He is or was at the time the lawyer of IMEC, which has done the independent research on SP2, SP3. Werhard, the Space Program Research Technology, which we have released their emails to confirm. He's been at the same time the lawyer of IWT, which is the Flemish Institute for Financing Research. At the same time, he is the lawyer of WITO, which is the nuclear section of the Belgian structure. And now this criminal has made his way to become part of the European Space Agency directorship, which means now not only me who's been threatened to be killed, and he has been told by the police organizations and politicians within Belgium that he has caused the death of a number of scientists. He has found his way to European Space Agency. Now we start seeing assassination of a number of scientists around the European if they do not give their technology to him freely to be benefited by it. I do not see, because I have a witness and we have put it there, Mr. Hans Brackenier to be head of the space agency, European Space Agency, when he has criminal records even within the courts of Belgium. What he does, because of his closeness to this apparatus of the government, he's been given a special police force within the federal police to carry out assassination and forcing and pressurizing scientists to give their technology to him. If you go on the company list of the Belgium and some other foreign countries, you see Mr. Hans Brackenier to be directors of a number of the companies with the leading technologies in space and energy. 90% of this is not done voluntarily. He has forced the scientists to hand over their life work. And if they don't do like me, openly on the paper, on the table, he accuses others to do or will assassinate you. We have put his name down with 3 witnesses on the table when he's made these threats. And the whole problem with the Keshe Foundation started, had to literally hide everything, when Mr. Hans Brackenier, who is, he calls himself the gatekeeper of the king of the ex-king of the Belgium. I do not know if he's still a gatekeeper for the present king, to disclose and to threaten us, and he uses a national security to disguise his criminal activities. As a scientist who's been threatened by him, I request, if you are anywhere in the world, and from United Nations and Interpol, to investigate the criminal activities of this man. He's an animal, not a scientist, and he's not a man. And I would like you to approach anybody you can, the European Space Agency, for opening the criminal records on this man. He should not be and be part of the head of European Space Agency. Because now he's found his way to kill and maim and force scientists to give technologies to him. He has an organization as a consultancy we have disclosed in Belgium that people go to him to consult how to develop technologies, and he uses this company as a honeypot to get access to technologies to get what he wants. So in this workshop, we have to know why a lot of us are suffering with Fukushima situation, where the technology was well known for past 10 years and in our hands and in the position of mankind. So what I ask, not only as an individual, but as a man of science, for the arrest of Mr. Hans Brackenier for carrying out murders, organizing and carrying out threats and harassing scientists around Belgium and in Europe. This point has been put a few times through the Belgian parliament, but it's been blocked because most of the politicians in Belgium know of this activity of this man, but they're afraid of his threats and what he has done or he can do to their families and themselves. So out of Belgium, we open the book. I put my request to you. If you're a press person, go and check this man out. He's a criminal and he has to be taken out of the cycle of the advanced technology that people like me and other scientists like me, and even like Dirk Oressens, and even like other scientists who we know, the persons online, can tell you that they've been harassed by just going to IMEC for development or going to different companies, that they end up on the back of the Mr. Hans Brackenier. And we know, they can tell you there is a scientist who's given his black box for energy production, and I do not know if he's still alive. He had a cancer, and he never saw his technology through. So we have, as world population, as people of this planet, which working for the betterment of all of us at the same time, like being to able to distribute this technology freely, the way we did with Fukushima, not to be strangled and to be stopped by people like Hans Brackenier and the police force of Belgium, who are embedded to support it. We released the name of the police officer who's a leading organizer for carrying assassination. His name is Mr. Delanois. This is not the first time I release his name. In one of my original releases, I released his name. He's the gentleman who arranged and has been present in 2 of the assassination attempts against my life. He's a criminal. He's based in the police station as a federal police with the support of a fraudulent prosecutor in Kortrijk district of Belgium. But in fact, he carries he supervises all the assassination and all the extortion through the police force of Belgium. He is a rogue officer. We've been told by other federal police officers who are investigating other murders that they know him a criminal officer. His name is Delanois. He's based in the federal police of Belgium. He has made 2 direct attempts to kill me personally, and he is present when assassination attempts are carried out. This was the reason, that's why we left Belgium the last time he was present, as a team of 8 people to assassinate, create a condition that it looked like an accident. And the day before, the man who was to carry out assassination, as a police officer, attended my house with a hat on his head. We know all his identities. You do not go into a man's house as a police officer and keep your American cowboy hat on your head. And all the time when you're present in the meeting. We got him profile read by our security, and his name came out as assassinator. And the following day, he attended the president in my house with Mr. Delanois. After I wasn't home, Mr. Delanois running out of the street, and he's been video camera. So I asked for Interpol and United Nations for the arrest of the scientists, for the arrest of these 2 gentlemen for assassination, planting assassination, and creating false position for scientists to release their technology. Mr. Delanois now is on the 2nd track in Belgium to discredit, and now he has started threatening the supporters of Keshe Foundation in Belgium that if they do not collaborate, he'll organize their arrest. I request from the federal police and Interpol, and in fact, I request from the Court of Den Haag for the arrest of these 2 people, as they cannot be touched in Belgium. They are protected. And the protection is done by the King of Belgium. The benefit from these terrorist activities goes directly to the house of the king, the last king who resigned. This present king we cannot touch, and we never talk wrong about him. We have nothing to do with him. But the last king has been involved in a number of criminal activities, which is always he has claimed immunity from any critical and criminal cases as he's the king. King of Belgium has files within the French police courts, and he is claiming immunity continuously not to be prosecuted. And Mr. Hans Brecquenier and legal advisors like him are keeping out of the reach of the law. One of the reasons the King of Belgium abdicated last year, the Belgian people can tell you, was because he had to give a blood test through a court proceeding, because there is a girl in London who claims to be his daughter. And the blood test had to be given, and the courts were forcing for this blood test, or they were trying to get the order through a court that the king gives a blood test to confirm the girl is his daughter. And he preferred to abdicate and give the blood. So we have a new king. But the reason for this abdication, in fact, is that there are so many sexual behavior, child abuse, murder of children by the King of Belgium, which are pending for a blood test for years, and this would have opened the Pandora box to open the behavior. So he preferred to abdicate, but not giving the blood test, because this test would have been used in the criminal cases, which are pending and go nowhere till they have a blood sample. So the country has lost the king through rape of children, murder of children, and he claims protection. The same as we are opening the conditions for the World Peace Treaty, the people who see and the people who use these positions, like Mr. Hans Brecquenier, using the weakness of the king, just in case if anything happens, he's got an insurance policy. As of today, his insurance policy is expired. We request as a people, if you're French, if you're Spanish, if you're British, if you're American, if you're from Northern Africa, Arabic speaking, the 2 children which were missing in Belgium some 10 years ago, and their bodies found raped, young girls, which were returned back to Morocco. All these are the murders carried out by the king and nobody can touch. I'm prepared to go to prison. I'm prepared to stand the sentence by death if my case is wrong. The Court of Justice was not made for the African leaders and the people who they do not suit the other countries. The Hague Court has to be just, and we request for the arrest of the King of Belgium, and if he's innocent, he can show his case. He is as much guilty of child abuse as was Saddam or African leaders who are standing trial in The Hague. This is not accusation. There are politicians, and I request the French president, His Excellency, to open the cases of the French children which is gone missing, and the court cases are sitting for this king. He is not a king. If a father rapes his child, he is put into prison. King is the father of a nation. There should be no difference as a man. He resigned the kingship not for the girl to accept that he has a descendant. He should not be ashamed. A lot of kings have had offsprings. The reason the blood test was not given, and he preferred to abdicate, most probably with the advice of Mr. Hans Braconier, was these tests would have allowed the cases, court cases pending around the world against his murdering, raping children under the age of 10, 12 years old to be opened up. Now, as Keshe Foundation belongs to the world population, we demand and we request The Hague Court of Justice for the arrest of these three people and the people within the Belgian structure who are protecting them. The king and the layman should be judged equally for their behavior, and there is no difference. I cannot go any further. We are prepared to disclose. I have Mr. Dirk Loressens, who's a Belgian. He's a brother to me. We've worked very closely together for nearly 10 years. He can tell us in the meetings where the leading Belgian politicians have told us that they are aware and they know of the criminal activities of Mr. Hans Braconier. There has been a question mark for a long time. How come IMAC is the cause of scientists leaving Belgium? Now we know. Mr. Hans Braconier. He sits and he's positioned himself in the leading scientific organizations in Belgium, and now he's brought himself to international level in the European Space Agency to literally benefit his pocket and the people who support it. He should not be ahead of and in the European Space Agency, because now we start seeing German scientists disappearing, French scientists disappearing, Dutch, God knows, any nationality which he cannot get the technology, which is literally obsolete. With the new space technology which we have released, the present European Space Agency is obsolete. In the past 2 weeks, the knowledge seekers are with us. We have given and put all the reactors available to us openly on the table to them. And there is nothing hidden. They have seen the simplicity of the technology. They have seen how they can do simple things, and they've been asked within the next 30 days, within the month of March, to achieve their first lift. You've seen how we produce material for nanotechnology. It's the same simplicity with space technology. When you see the documents we released today, it's going to go on every language on this planet, is that, for example, on the 25th of November, when the federal police came to my lab and they seized and locked up my material and left it to me, there was strange things happening. This was to discredit the Keshe Foundation on the 26th of November, the following day in Eindhoven. But we did not disclose, we disclosed for the first time in these documents. The following Monday, 48 hours after Eindhoven, the Federal Police of Belgium at high speed through to try to roll over my car on the motorway between Ghent and Antwerp. That was the first open assassination on my life, organized by Mr. Hans Bracknier, because all these systems are made by IMEC. They have made IMEC as a terrorist organization threatening scientists in the front of the advanced nanotechnology in the world. If you are a scientist in IMEC from Korea or any part of the world, be aware you are not safe as long as Mr. Hans Bracknier and people in that organization are there. You are good there as long as you can give them the technology, and you have to go and backtrack how many of you have disappeared. My arrest in Canada, 11 days conservation, was not done accidentally, was well organized and orchestrated through IMEC. We can submit documents. We did not talk, but now we open the book, there is no limitation. I go back again. I request, if you are listening to this program on any nationality, write to your government, write to United Nations, send an email to ssi@gmail.com. Or you can use a spaceship institute@gmail.com. We collect the documents and we forward it to the authorities. I do not think I received a fair hearing in Den Haag because the tentacles of these criminals reaches too far. These criminals have been judged in the courts in China or in Tehran. I'm an Iranian citizen. I demand my justice in my country. Then I'll get a fair hearing and fair justice, because in Den Haag, a lot will be covered. I put a very direct question to His Excellency President Obama. If King of Belgium is so safe, why none of the American presidents have ever met him with their families in open? If you go to newspapers between 15 to 18, 19th of January 2012, the top 4 newspapers in Belgium, there is a 4-page article, which in this 4-page tells you that different kings and royalties in Europe have had so many public meetings in the year before. Like Queen of England has something like 50, 60 public presentation meeting. Dutch Queen in the same kind of region. King of Belgium, numbers 2. This means the whole royal family in Europe are aware of his behavior, and they want to meet him with their children and their family. This is not allegation. This open. Go to the Belgian press between 15th and 20th of January 2012. It's a 4-page document. Why a king of this country, which is the center of Europe, Brussels, Belgium, has only need and been seen in public twice because of his criminality. World leaders are aware of his work, but to keep the European Union together, the rest of the European nations and the world are paying for it with the lives of their daughters and the life of young ones. There are mothers in France who are waiting for the girls to come back for the past 30, 40 years. There are children in North African countries, the parents waiting for the girl to knock on the door one day. There are people in Spain who are waiting for missing children. There is a mother in England waiting for a 5-year-old daughter to appear for past years, and she's been accused of killing her own children or her own daughter. Look too far. All these bodies, I found 4 of them years ago in Brussels, in the garages and in the basements. They all are and sit within the palaces of Belgian monarchy, not necessarily in Brussels. in the mountains where the king came to see me. We have released a picture of the king and the queen of Belgium last year, where by accident the king happened to be where I was writing my fourth book, in a little shop, in a little cafe in the mountains. Coincidence don't happen. The same as when we released the knowledge and we showed the first space reactors on the 3rd of December, the following day, the American drone was captured, and on the same date, on his anniversary, on the 3rd of the following December, second American spy plane was captured. World governments are aware that this technology is correct. World governments are aware that will bring the change. The change has to come without pressure. The change has to come through and amongst the people, amongst the scientists, and be shared by the world population. This is not a talk, this is not a rhetoric, because for this reason now we have scientists sitting around this table from Japan, from Czechoslovakia, from Spain, from Russia, Afghanistan with American citizenship, from French Belgium, from Slovenia. And we have a doctor who's not with us today, and as you said last week, he'll join us again. So the team of knowledge seekers will dispose of all the information and filter all the information to you on a weekly and daily basis from now on. All the talks on the tape recorded that in the future they can use for teaching. I do not make this workshop or presentation of scientific work without a reason, because with me around this table are people who have seen documents, and they have done their own version and translated it into their languages, which we posted across the internet by close of business today. We have released signed research papers by these institutes. It's not an allegation. I have a dear friend of mine, Dirk, on the side. He can confirm to you, if he wants, I will allow the floor to him to explain what we've been told by the politicians, French politicians, that they are aware of the criminality of Mr. Hans Brackenier. Then you understand this is not an allegation. The gentleman who is a member of the Parliament of Belgian government, when it disclosed that the two girls found by the true case were killed sexually, he's been removed from the Parliament because, unknown to a lot of people, the fingerprint of the life of the King of Belgium is within the body of these girls when they were found. This would have disclosed that the king had to do something with their death through sexual abuse. Hunger, as the second document, was fraudulent. And when this scientist, this member of parliament of Belgium, had the documents and he was about to release, he's been put all sorts of pressure, he's been removed from the parliament, not to disclose one thing: the fingerprint of the King of Belgium in the body of the two dead bodies. This king is not a king, he's a criminal in the clothes of a king. I am standing, I know what I stand for. We've been told there is a plan, a third plan for my assassination. My security people, they call it the red alert. I had a full brief in the past days. So I asked the people who protect and are with the foundation to join us to protect us. Not for my life. I have no fear. I've been through 3 assassination attempts by the Belgian police, Mr. Delanois, organized personally. It's a very simple. You think it might be an accusation. There is a file within the court of Belgium. Dirk can tell you the gentleman who made the threat against us is the same gentleman who was involved in another assassination and killing of a Russian woman, and is the same gentleman who made the threat about other scientists who was in IMAC, as I told you, he's dying of cancer. I don't know if he's dead yet. That can tell us. This officer has carried out all the intimidation and terrorist activities against the scientists who do not give way to Mr. Hans Brackenier. We reported to police for the threat we received. And in any criminal law, you can go to the courts of Belgium in Kortrijk and open the file. When you make a claim to the police that there is an attempt or a threat against your life, the investigation directly goes to the man who you're accused of. Strange enough, the Federal Police of Belgium took a year and a half before interviewing him. They interviewed every dog in Belgium, but not the guy, because he already has a pedophile record in the Far East, having 10 and 12-year-old boys on his lap. So they use criminals and they approach simple scientists for their own benefit. So in fact, a bunch of pedophiles have taken over the world of science in Belgium, and now we all become terrorists because they do not get what they want. I repeat again, I request and I demand from His Excellency President Obama, you have 2 daughters. You understand what it means. There are mothers and fathers waiting for their children to come back home, which are buried within the palace of the Belgian kingdom. Put their mind at rest. Because your children can be victim of this man and his allies very soon. European Space Agency, then NASA. How many more scientists do we have to lose? How many people do we have to put on exiles to satisfy the sexual hunger? A man who calls himself a king and the entourage who use this weakness to achieve what they want. We should not be imprisoned by these people. The technology is so beautiful like this should be at the free and at the reach of every man. This technology, when we said will create water and energy, will create materials to stop all the needs of man, is now in the hand of scientists around this table and around the world. You will read the company Werhart in an email which we have released today, a copy of, I go to it that I'm exactly quoting the right thing, that I'm not out of line. In their email, dated, the date of the email is 30th of May 2005. After they investigated the design with me, we have even for the first time today have released the finger blueprint of the whole system set up by the leading space organization called Werhart in Belgium, who investigated the design and the credibility of this technology, which this design to support our work was on the key which was given to the world governments last year. So now you see part of the blueprint of a full system in the report which is getting released. In the email of 30th of May 2005 at 15:21, sent by the managing directors of the Werhart. Werhart is a leading, they produce and they have hand in most of the satellites for the European Space Agency. Here I read the last line, you can read the rest on the internet. The budget currently estimated is apparently between 300 to 500,000. So it says Werhart is willing to invest his part of development of first prototype of the reactor in bracket for energy production with the following conditions. And the conditions is IWT, Mr. Hans Brackenier, another part of, because Werhart is a lawyer, and scientific partner like WITO, which is again Mr. Hans Brackenier, collaborate. So you see and you can understand that if an organization like Warehouse, after working for 3 months, is studying every aspect of the technology after a report by Professor Van Overmeer of the University of Brussels, is prepared to spend 10 years up to $500,000 of their own money, this means the technology for power production has been correct for past 10 years. So now the reality is we are not hiding anymore. If you are happy for us to open our technology that you see how it can be used for Fukushima, the way you are expecting us and we are working to give you the power generator, now you have to expect the same, and we expect the same from you to support us to allow to keep this technology open to worldwide population with literally cutting the hand of these thieves on the name of monarchy, head of scientific organizations, which has started nesting in Belgium. You call them Illuminatis, you call them Rothschilds, you call them Masons. We invite you for collaboration. Doesn't matter what flag you carry. And I'm sure most of you in these positions of Rothschild family, Illuminatis, what you call Masons, whatever, you're all fathers and you are responsible people in the society. I'm sure you do not like to lose your daughters to the pleasures of a mischievous, one so-called king. Join us as a team. We have not released this technology to destabilize the world. We have released the technology to stabilize the world, but through unity. World security should not be touched, but world armies to cause death has to stop. The technology has to be used for advance of man and not for gagging and killing the scientists who try to develop it. Now it's not in my hand anymore. Now the 8 scientists from around the world around this table. At the moment 7. We'll have 1 more 6. I consider myself maybe as a scientist. And we are releasing the technology. I am not a terrorist, but I'm a scientist who being terrorized by people like this. So we made our statement clear. The knowledge seekers have released the detail and will release the details across the internet. There is no way this is going to be stopped. We have an Arabic translator. My message to you, to the Islamic world, to the Arab world is very simple. You have lost children to the King of Belgium and you returned 2 girls back to Africa, to North Africa, because they were abused by the king. How many more have we lost? Arab, Chinese, English, European, they have no mercy with this and the people around him. When the king finishes with a child, the leftover as the crumbs are handed to these people like Mr. Handrakenir for their pleasure. Now you understand the structure, how they have to keep the secret of each other in power. One crime feeds the other. I am prepared to stand in the court of Den Haag or any court if I'm not assassinated within the next 7 days by organization which is set up by Mr. Delanois, Federal Police of Belgium, a criminal, the way he organizes things, to stand my judgment if I'm wrong. And I ask for the fathers and the mothers who have lost their children and they could not speak up to now. Diplomatic immunity cannot breach the boundary of killing children. There is no immunity for murder of children, girls for sexual abuse by a king and his entourage. Go to the palace and ask for your children. Put it on the table to French government. Open over 50 cases of abuse against the king. This is in the public press. It's not something we announce in hidden or secret. Go on the Belgian press, and you find out the king abdicated when it came apparent, or the girl in England was, the mother of the girl was claiming she wants a blood test to prove that her daughter is the blood of the king. He preferred to abdicate than to give the blood to be tested, because that would have opened the flood of criminal cases against him, which is sitting in courts and is claiming immunity. Because the immunity was, as long as I don't give a blood or any samples, it's not me. I haven't done the crime. We asked for that blood test, and let's see what happens. This is our statement. Please read the documents, which is how many pages? 46 pages, released by the knowledge seekers of the foundation, and posted at every place you can, and accompanied with this presentation. It is very clear. We demand, as the world population, investigation directly into the behavior of the king, the ex-king of Belgium, is called Albert II, Albert II. Mr. Hans Brackenier, the director, now sitting as one of the 5 directors of the European Space Agency, and the police force assassination team, Mr. Delanois, the Kortrijk Police, Federal Police Section. He trains, he's a trainer for other police officers how to kill. And he trains on a weekly basis in Brussels other police officers how to assassinate. And he's very proud of it. And I tell you this because he told me, but at that time when he told me, I couldn't understand how I'm receiving a threat. And if I'm wrong, please go back to documents of the courts in Belgium where a Russian girl was assassinated when was shot dead and the house was burned down. And the officers who were investigating that murder, because it was done by the same guy as who made the threat against my life, they informed me of a misconduct and the criminal activities of Mr. Delanois. They could not understand how such a criminal officer is involved. They were shocked. So there's nobody in the Belgian police. Belgian police is not a criminal organization. But these people use the cover name of the king to discredit, and they use the police force in to carry on the assassination and the pressuring of the scientists. IMAC is well known for pressurizing scientists out of Belgium. Nobody knew how. Very simple. Internal lawyers of all these firms, IMAC, Whittle, Werhard, IWT. Even there is allegations in the newspapers of Belgium in 2003 and 2004 that Mr. Hans Brackenier has a conflict of interest, which is a criminality. And we were told by the First Minister of the Flemish Cabinet, he was kicked out because of criminal activities. But he has a protection of the king, never comes out. We were told by our lawyers that Mr. Hans Brackenier has a criminal record from the university time. He's a well-bred criminal on the content of the lawyer, and now the head of the European Space Agency. I demand for his arrest, and if you're correct, you should do the same before we lose more scientists. I thank you for listening to this, and I hope it reaches Verihastra. Any questions?
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Kesh, for that. And yes, let's open it to questions from people.
The title, before I forget, the title of the document is getting released today, is called The Unknown Truth About the Kesh Foundation.
English version is uploaded, please.
English version, I've been told, is uploaded, and Rick, you've received the link on the Skype. You can send it to anybody you like.
Okay, thank you. I see that, yes.
Can you do it as fast as possible before they block anything?
Okay, we can put it on.
Can I ask Dirk if he wants to say anything at this point? Hello?
Dirk, you may have to turn on your microphone in order to speak right now.
Or has he fallen asleep?
Well, he's not.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
wait a minute. There it is.
I was making a coffee. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Okay there.
Yes. Okay. I want to.
Would you like to add anything? Because,
Sorry.
please, let me explain. Dirk has been present in. Let me explain something. Dirk has been present in all of our meetings with all the officials. So it's not me. You have a Belgian citizen who can confirm all or most of the meetings. Go ahead, Dirk. And before you start, I thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now. Okay. Now as a Belgian citizen, it's very difficult for me to say something about the former King Albert II. So, indeed, there is a certain parliament guy called Laurent Louis who has opened some files about pedophilia in Belgium. Okay, and he accuses a number of noble people to be involved in those cases and murders. Now, the other interesting point that Mr. Cash points to is Hans Braquenier. Hans Braquenier, you have to know, is a famous lawyer in Belgium who promotes himself as being the specialist in Belgium of technology transfer. So you can read it on his website. He's the middle of a large network of juridical persons and a network that is also involved with the lodges, the Masons in Belgium. The history of him was that he's a very prominent person in the Liberal Party, Open VLD, and he has an incredible network. Through his connections with the Masons in Belgium, he was able to be... Yes, hello. Yes, can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Yes, we can hear you fine, Dirk. It's coming through good.
Yes, go ahead there.
So, because of his influence in the Liberal Party, Open VLD, he was able, a number of years ago, to become the head of cabinet of a minister, of the Belgian minister, Patrick de Waal, who was at that time the Secretary of State or Minister of Interior Affairs. Interior Affairs means that you are the controller, let's say, from the government on the police forces, internal police, but also secret services. So you know everything. So you can make a file if you want through your contacts in your network about a person. And I'm absolutely sure that he was the guy who made a secret service file against Maigret. So that he was able to make a file claiming that Maigret Cash was involved in terrorist activities because he was an Iranian. You see the network, how a network can work. So, but after some years, it was clear that Hans Braquenier was corrupt, completely corrupt. So he was forced to resign by the government, so he was fired. So there must be tracks of that fireman, why he was fired. So that's very interesting. And I think that his involvement through his network, through the Open VLD party, Liberal Party, he was able to infiltrate or to put himself in fantastic positions in the technology sector, in several ways. Even on his website, you can see that even he is the technology transfer specialist who is involved with American army companies like Margareta, Lockheed, all those companies that are involved. So the link between the arms and war people is very related to this guy. So it's a dangerous guy, absolutely. And because of his connections, being a couple of years the head of cabinet of internal affairs, so his influence on the police is very strong, and probably is still very strong, because he will probably has put some of his friends inside during the time that he was head of cabinet. He could put in some of his friends of his network into the police forces and give them important positions where they could influence and work in the favor of Mr. Hans Bracquinier. So it's a very, very strange network. And I remember that Maigret, when I met him, he explained to me what happened on the board of Verhaert. It's a company that now is taken a space company. I think they have one satellite in the air. It's a cube. It's the kind of cube. Now, Maigret told me at that moment that Verhaert was and the lawyer of Verhaert, but was also, he proposed to be the lawyer of Maigret. So at that moment, he would be on two sides of the contract. And that's the way this guy works. And then Maigret refused it, and at that moment, Verhaert said on a little paper, gave it to him, to Maigret, and to his wife, Caroline, a little paper with 4 names. These people have interest to kill you, he said. That was on the paper, and then he took the paper back, and he showed the names. That was what Maigret told me. I don't know, I was not there at that moment present. But another way that I was informed by other people was the way he puts himself in the technology, IWT, it's called, Instituut voor Wetenschappelijke Technologie. So he was a lawyer there, and when a new file from a new prototype was given to IWT, he forced the people to pay him 5,000 euros to give him juridical advice. So you see the position he puts himself in. He says, okay, your file will not pass. We will not accept the demands for funding of the prototype if you don't pay me 5,000. You see, so that's a very sophisticated system Hans Bracquinier used. And he did the same when he was head of cabinet of Minister Patrick de Waal, Minister of Internal Affairs. So you see the network that is around. And then comes a guy called Maigret Cash, and he says, sorry, I don't play your game. And then he was fucked up, that Hans Bracquinier. So, and then the other relationship of Hans Bracquinier being for a couple of years as head of the cabinet of Patrick de Waal, influencing the police forces, it was very easy for Hans Bracquinier to put his network from the Masons and also from the police in work to block new technology. So that's now about Mr. Delannoy. One day we had a case of a counterfeiter, a guy who wanted to steal technology of Maigret. He was very, very excited about technology and called himself already, I will become the richest man in the world. So at that time, there was a game like he accused Megram of not delivering the technology, and there was a contract, but I made the contract, and the guy needed to pay. His name was Ab van den Elshout. So Ab van den Elshout, a Dutch guy with a golden tongue, he can lie, it's incredible. He's a real master in that. So the police started to investigate this. So I received a call from Mr. Delannoy, who asked me for an interview. So I went. So Delannoy with one of his colleagues came to my home, and I gave all the documents where it was clearly shown that Mr. van den Elshout was a crook, was a thief and a liar. And at that moment, everything that I proved was like thrown away. It was not important. And Mr. Delannoy, in my opinion, really protected that Ad van den Elshout. Because, of course, this was not in the favor of Megrand Cash. So you see, there was a really very strange game going on against any logic you can imagine. So you know it is like that.
Can I say something there?
Yes, okay, Megrand.
Can I say something? This
Yes.
is the guy who I mentioned earlier. It took a year and a half before they interviewed the criminal.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Before they interviewed him.
Yep, but Megrand, what is important is that Hans Brackenier, he wanted to block you, and he had all his old colleagues sitting in his network of police, secret services to make files against you. And then you have the other game, that those files of secret services, they are distributed through the secret services. So when it's once it's in the computers, you cannot take it away. It's there. It sits there. And the secret service, they work together in Paris. So in Paris, there must be a giant file about you created by Hans Brackenier, who blames you things. And then we have those very strange things like when you did the spectroscopy tests with the CO2 and the methane gas, CH4. It was a professor at the University of Ghent who said, "I've never seen such curves. And this is indeed a pure form of CO2, but it's not gas. It's liquid, or it is solid." So after 2 days, he phones you, the professor, and he says, "Sorry, I received a call that I cannot talk to you anymore." That was again based, in my opinion, on a file, a secret file that somebody of the Secret Service of Belgium phones to the professor, because he knows from our telephone traffic and GPS traffic that we were there. So he phones the guy and he says, "You cannot do it, this is of national security," or something like that. All based on false reports created originally by Hans Brackenier. You see, so it's you have seen, Megrand, how we went to the Opel factory. The Opel factory that we wanted to take over after the strikes and things like that. And the fact that GM closed that factory in Antwerp. There were a number of illogic decisions made by several people. We were proposing to create 10,000 new jobs. We proposed to create from Antwerp space heaven or a space gate, a port, like an airport, but for spaceships. We propose to do medical, to build medical reactors there. It was all thrown away, probably again based on reports from the Secret Service, Belgian Secret Service, created, invented by Mr. Frans Brackenier. So the new technology that Keshe Foundation is promoting, it disturbs a number of rich, mighty people in the industry, but also in the political world. So that's what I wanted to say. Okay?
Derek, do you remember, if I ask you a question, do you remember the balloon collection we made in Mimlet Castle, who told us that they are aware of the criminal activities of Frans Brackenier?
Yes, I
Who
was
took
thinking.
us to see Professor Shishi of the university?
Yeah, but I don't remember exactly the name, but I know that in my conversations with several people, they said, "Oh yes, Hans Brackenier, yeah, we know that story. It's incredible. It's a snake," he said, the guy to me. But it was not in the conversation that you were present. It was a telephone conversation I had with a guy, with a very important guy in the politics.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, it was the guy we met. We met during our visit to the cabinet of the Prime Minister of Belgium. It was my former friend. You remember? And he said, "Yes, yes, we know that."
Oh, yeah.
That was Hans Dont. Hans Dont is at this moment the Secretary General of the Ministry of Finance. He's very powerful, but he knows all the story of Hans Brackenier. And he said to me, yes, he was fired, etc. From the forced to resign from the head as head of cabinet because of corruption and a number of things. But this Hans Brackenier is now, and I didn't know that, so he's one of the director of European Space Agency.
Yep.
Incredible, incredible. You see how the network works. And then he is in extra position to block you, to block anything. And you see, and then he can use his contacts in his network with NASA and things like that, and American war machines. So it's an incredible network. It's not visible, but it's existing. Amazing. Amazing that such a guy with such a reputation, and everybody knows he's a crook, that he can come in such a position in the European Space Agency. It's incredible. I'm amazed. Okay.
Derek, do you remember, or can you explain when I came back from Tehran in 2008, that
Yes.
we had to go to the Suez on the same day to attend the office of the Prime Minister of Belgium to explain the technology, what was achieved?
Yes. So what I told
Can you enlighten us?
what I told you before
Hello?
is, yes, hello, hello, hello.
Hello, we are listening. Carry on.
Yes, yes.
Listening.
Yeah, you have
Yes,
to know.
we are listening, yes.
You have to know that in a former life I was how do you call it, public servant, high public servant in the Belgian Ministry of Economic Affairs. At that time I was what they called adjunct advisor, and I had about 16 people under me. And at that moment, there was a young guy coming in. He was under me. He was a very bright guy, speaking fluently Dutch, of course, French, English, a bright guy. His name was Hans Dont. Hans Dont, he was family from, I think, the nephew of a political woman sitting in parliament, being Secretary of State a number of times. And so he worked with me. So we start to be friends. And so that was the background, let's say. So later on...
This is the same man who was in the cabinet. Yeah.
Yes, the guy from the cabinet. So before, he was one of, not really my employees, he was under me in the structure of the Ministry of Economic Affairs. So then I left because I invented some toys who were successful. And then, after a number of years, I still kept contact with Hans Dont. And so from the moment you were in Iran, I contacted him and I said, look, Hans, this is an incredible technology and we can solve the energy problems in Belgium. And I think we need to talk. And so I made an arrangement with him and he said, yeah, okay, let's talk with him, with Megram Cash. So I confirmed this by emails and things like that. So we were in contact. And then you came back. In fact, I drove to Paris to take you up. You remember the big suits you had with all those reacts you received from Iran you could take with you. So that from their part, there was no embargo on you, or you could not export this technology. So, and then after that, so we met Hans Dont, being the head of office, the head of cabinet at that moment of Prime Minister Leterme at that moment. Later on, we understood, because there was a woman present also in that. It was the specialist in energy, and later we started to know that woman, I think her name was Devine or something like that, of Devin, was in fact the promoter of windmills in Belgium. So we went to speak with the devil. She was not interested in our technology. She was interested in windmills. So that wasn't, it was not a mistake, but we informed Hans Dont that there was a possibility. So that was a little bit the history around that. Okay, Megram?
Yeah, this is good to know, because what I say is me, but now we have a Belgium and other Belgians who have supported us and in so many ways protected us for years. But now a new cycle of accusation and work by the same police officer has started, and they are threatening that they issue warrant for the arrest of the coalition supporters in Belgium if they do not give them what they want. I request from the Belgian federal government to look into the investigation of this Mr. Delannoy and the instruction of Mr. Hans Bekkenier. Interesting enough, when you read the article which is released now in your hand, the reason I came to Belgium was because I could not come to an agreement with the Ministry of Defense of England. And strange enough, 3 months after the date that the technology was correct and they were prepared to invest, Wareharp was sold to a subsidiary of the Ministry of Defense of the United Kingdom. The first ever acquisition by Ministry of Defense outside the boundary and the borders of United Kingdom. They considered technology which they were negotiating beforehand so advanced that they went and literally bought the company which did the investigation in development of the energy reactor. This is in the press, you can read it, we have provided the links on the release. So one understands that the technology is, if a company like Werhart, with their advanced technology in the space, which they were appointed by structure within the government to evaluate physically the production of the first, what they call fusion reactor, were prepared to invest their own money out of their pocket. So we were not wrong. And the power generators you've been waiting for to deliver within nuclear sources were more or less could have been made in 2006, 2007. And we wanted to produce them in 2009. Again, by the request of the First Minister of the British government, through the request of Pricewaterhouse headquarters in Ghent, to take over the plants and start working, was again stopped through the same process. So it means the Flemish government, who invested in the evaluation with Werhart, with Professor Van Overmeer, with SCK, and other factors, they already knew the technology was correct, that the First Minister, private or through the Flemish government, approached Pricewaterhouse, which is a leading accountancy firm, to approach Keshe Foundation to take over of the Antwerp plant for production of the systems. So you cannot blame that all the Belgians are wrong. The Flemish government knows. They had the scientists, we met as the advisors and the first ministers in the Flemish government who understood what technology was. And once the hand of Mr. Hans Brackenier got to it, the criminal cases, which is cases made imaginary ones, because it doesn't suit him to steal it, or it suited him to technology, kicked in. In fact, from next week, the knowledge seekers will post.
Sorry, the Spanish
every
version
test
is. I'll just say it right
and
now.
do it
Sorry, the Spanish
of the
version
reactors
is
they
for
chosen.
the PDF, not the link
Openness
to
of the
live
technology
feed.
is the savior of the technology. The way we showed the production of nanomaterial without using any nuclear material at this moment is carried out by the knowledge seekers team. In the second week, which has been this week, I have put all the reactors which we have, all the technologies we have on the table to them. And I've said, you choose which ones you want to test and develop or test as a group or in tools or individuals. This is how open the technology is. This is how we have opened the technology. This is how this knowledge of universe, this is knowledge of God, is in the hand of the man. And it has to be accessible irrespective of color, race, and religion. And we have carried this out. And we'll carry it the same way out. We will teach, not me, but all the knowledge seekers start teaching through their workshops. And we'll post the videos. We are doing everything. I've asked the videos to be made of everything. We can video, it's possible, and we post it, that you can see the process. We are not going to show you every time we succeed. We're going to show you more when we fail, because there should be no fear on the new territories. And if you only show the best part, in fact, we haven't learned from the past. We should be open, and it's this openness, I think, has even shocked the knowledge seekers who've been here in the past 2 weeks. Knowledge is freely given, and I hope when they become the teachers of the institute in the near future to teach others, they carry with the same thing. They can teach freely without the fear of what will happen or if I lose money with a patent. Patents has no value. We have opened the hand in the structure of the peer review with Stephen Hawking situation, with the Royal Institute of Astronomy. Now, in this workshop, we open the way the political structure sits to do the same thing. Every section, every sector only works to protect their own titles. We have opened the Fukushima situation, and we will announce very soon new research development testing done by other governments. I opened the arms friendship and collaboration with NASA again for a second time. Now that we have opened the doors, you could not get a visa for me to come and give you a lecture last year, according as was disclosed by Pizwiki. Sterling Allen opened the house NASA, who we've been inviting us to go. As we cannot come to you, we invite the NASA scientists to our base to work with our foundation knowledge seekers. We show you the way, and if you are kind enough, you teach it to the Americans and other nationalities through your way. So the ones who blocked us, now the way I reached the hand of peace to the American government over nearly a year and a half ago, which led to the peace talks with Iran, we put the same hand of friendship to NASA, to Russian Space Agency.
I think we just lost Mr. Cash.
I believe we've lost Mr. Cash. Okay.
Yeah.
Merrick is also off, so that tells me that they might be having internet troubles.
Right. Okay. Is there any discussion anyone would like to proceed with at this point in time while we wait for the connection to reestablish, perhaps?
Yes, Rick. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, speak a little.
Hello?
It's a little too loud, but yes.
I don't know how to turn it down.
Okay, maybe stand back from the microphone a little bit.
Rick, the GoToMeeting viewer doesn't show the same screen as the stream.
Okay. That's right.
You know what I mean?
Paused right now.
Right. It'll be different in the GoToMeeting. You'll have to talk to Vince about that.
Yeah, it's just paused right now. And,
No, the GoToMeeting viewer doesn't show the same screen as the live stream.
Right, that's right.
no, that's right. It shows the Skype screen.
Yeah, it only shows the Skype screen and nothing else.
Right. Well, that's usually what happens in the workshop. That's normal. There's not much else to show other than a picture, and I'm trying to show the links for the documents as well in my picture. That's all. That's all that's different. Right? What happened there? Okay, let me check a few things.
Yeah, the links to the document. The links to the document is important.
Right. Well, you'll have to get Vince to set those up in GoToMeeting, or else find a way to send them over the channels that you're broadcasting to right in your live stream or whatever streaming thing that you're doing. That's what I had to do with the live stream as well. Try to put the links in. You're okay. Would you like to continue, Mr. Cash, or
Somehow we fell out of the system.
that seems to happen from time to time, mysteriously. Time to time, every day.
So the thing is, if there is any question, in this part, we answer, and then we go on the technical part.
And we have some questions
Hello?
regarding the last book.
I think Mr. Kesh is asking for questions about what he just talked about, right? Is that what you're saying at this point, Mr. Kesh?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see if there's a couple of questions on what has just transpired. I was interested in getting maybe some of the newcomers like Brett's point of view on that from GoToMeeting, or someone else that might have something new to offer on that situation. I think there's a lot of people that are on Mr. Kesh's side and would like to see justice be done in many ways on the planet, and this seems to be one aspect that's getting cleaned up on planet Earth at this point in time. So, any other comments about that? I feel like it's that Jack Benny show where there's 2 minutes of silence, and it's the longest period in radio history. Everybody a little not too anxious to speak up on that topic? Okay, I'll give it a minute. Let's see if something
I think
turns
it's
up.
a lot to.
It could be that.
I think it's a lot to swallow.
It is. It is. It's you came out strong with what you believe and with facts to back it up. So that's big information to a lot of people who maybe don't know about this sort of thing. I happened to get introduced to it also through Mr. Kesh, and so I started. My immediate impression was, what? How could this be? It sounds impossible, and some people think these things up and so on, and how could it be so pervasive and so on. So I did look it up on the internet, and I found some of the original documents from newspapers and from the internet that were released and so on, and I was pretty taken aback by the depth of the situation. So it wasn't a huge surprise to me, but on the other hand, I could see many people would be quite shocked by it, actually, and they should be, because it's a shocking situation that needs to be handled.
So we do have a question from Vitor.
No, what do you want?
Meeting.
Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me, Mr. Kesh?
Yes.
Okay, good. There's a question from Vitor in the GoToMeeting, and he's asking, is the Keshi Foundation under a big threat, and how can we act with the released documents?
The document which has been posted, now it's getting posted in different languages, release these accompanied with this workshop to all the officials in your country and to as many newspapers and any websites as you can. Because if we do not stop this process, this technology will be put away for centuries to come. And this is the big plan. Please go on anyway on internet, post it as many places as you can, and release it to as much press as possible. All the Belgium sites, people in Belgium have to make a decision for themselves how they're going to tolerate this situation. with me leaving Belgium, a lot of jobs are lost in Belgium, and a lot of people are unemployed in Belgium. For pleasure of
Mr.
2 or 3
Keshe.
men, the nation is paying. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I noticed on the back of the documents there is some diagrams of a reactor, and just wondering what is that just the nuclear version of what was released on the USB stick?
Yes, it is. It's exact copy. Now you have another additional file to the USB stick, which is in the hand of your government. This is a detailed plan with a control system and a feeding system, which is done by Werhart. This is not mine. You see, that's present package of a Werhart company. We had over 2-3 months, 2-3 meetings a week, up to 3 to 4 hours, with the scientists from Werhart, scientists from Vito, and other scientists they brought in to analyze and assess the other parts of the technology, different parts of it. And after all that, they've produced the 2 emails which we have accompanied with this plan. This is one of the blueprints. This is the technology which Werhart was sold on the back of to the British government. The only difference that they did not have the ignition key. And any meeting which took place with Werhart, and the following meeting, a summary was made, and the directors of the Werhart and the scientists present signed what they received as the information in the previous meeting. So we have piles and piles of documents, all signed by the directors of Werhart, the technology and the knowledge they received. And this is a blueprint, but this is a nuclear version. The non-nuclear version is what, in conjunction with what we showed at Fukushima. Development of nano layers. If you read the documents of the SDK, which we released part of it, again, it gives you by weight the presence of carbon. But the guy didn't understand the carbon was in the nano layers, which is what they call the gaseous state. Only see it because they fired it in a oven of over 1,400 degrees, and they could detect the CO2. And he even gives you by weight how much carbon it is. This is what we told you. The systems can convert carbon as a gas to a solid as a matter. This process of conversion of gases to matter will be hopefully shown in the next couple of 2-3 weeks by the knowledge seekers when they do it and they produce energy out of it in the lab. All the cylinders, the drawing totally is, as you see, it's a confidential, as part of a confidential report. Now the foundation belongs to you lot. Is, as I said, it's confidential and don't share it with somebody else. But as you are the owners of the Keshe Foundation, you are welcome to see what is secret to. You have to keep it confidential to yourself. The fuel tanks, the control system, the feeding system, overall, what we call it, reactors schematic. And this, if you see these documents carries a pencil mark 505, 506. These all have been registered in 2005 in a large dossier with a notary in Belgium and registered with a court in Belgium. So this is not something we came up out of our hand. This is the document. This is page 505, 506. You see 492. And these are all part of the documents which has been put into the file some 8 years ago and registered with the courts in Belgium by notary. That is a notarized paper and numbered. I think the presence was present while these documents were noted. So if you understand this process, you can see how detailed Werhart has gone into evaluating, costing, and everything else, and that accompanied with the EDOT. And if you read other email from Werhard, which is dated 24th of April, this is after several meetings before we could go into development. It was a theoretical evaluation on the back of Professor Van Overmeer. He says after several technical conceptual meeting with Mr. Cash, Werhard is interested in evaluating the feasibility of a project to develop an atomic fusion reactor in cooperation with Mr. Cash. Mr. M.T. Cash, with his extensive knowledge regarding nuclear physics and proven track record of publication in required field, seems to have the required knowledge about concept and physics to dimension such a kind of reactor chamber. Werhard, with his with experience to build experimental reactors for research purposes, a reactor for a space experiment, will deliver the required multidiscipline services to construct a proof of technology of the atomic fusion reactor. This is dated 26th of 4, and in the following email, which is signed at 492, on the 30th of May, that's April, May, after having a lot of meeting, they say, I will send you the contractual proposition by the end of this week. And it says that the Werhard is willing to invest. It means that with all scientific evaluation, physical evaluation, under the line number 3, Werhard is willing to invest his one type of reactor, energy generation following condition. Then you understand if you put the two documents next to each other. One on number 26, in bracket there says reactor for a space experiment. In the following, it says reactor for energy production. We made an agreement with Werhard that we make a system that not only uses for a space, but used for energy production.
Mr. Cash may have gone sort of bye-bye here.
I think we lost Mr. Cash again.
Right. Well, we can sit and listen to Guy bite his apple. Give it a try. Give it a go there, Guy. Let's see if we can get that on tape. I'm sure that came through. Good. Okay, well, here we are back
I think
again.
Diva had a question. So when he gets back and after you finish talking, Diva, do you want to ask him a question?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
A little dainty in the voice, but it's good.
Hello.
Hello. Whoops. Hello, Mr. Cash. Yes. Diva had a question here. Unless you want to continue. Can you hear me?
Looks like he went offline again.
Oh, okay.
So just suggesting that everyone call in every single contact that you've got. So if you're on any Facebook groups, if you know any forums, or it doesn't matter what they are, who they are, let's just send this out. Just distribute it far and wide. So as we've been sitting here, I've sent it out now to 10 different sources, and that's just the beginning. So just throw it out there and make sure that everybody knows about this.
Thank you, Diva. That seems to be the best protection for everyone, is to be upfront and honest about what's happening in the world.
Absolutely. And it's also made that.
Yeah.
It's also a what? Again, that was interrupted with. I couldn't quite get it.
Well, it's gonna solve multiple backlogs disturbance. That's putting it nicely, but just to distribute as far and wide as we can right now, and then break this into the mainstream news. So that's what the job is that I've taken on here. So as much buzz as we can get and as much exposure as we can get right now, just hit it. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, I'll do that in Hong Kong and China.
Second here.
That was James.
Hello. Yes.
So Rick, probably we should consider like a peer-to-peer network.
Hi, how you doing? I'll try to get away from the computer.
I want to
So we're still broadcasting. I'll try to re-invite you into the conversation. Right from the telephone, you mean? Okay, well, let me try to invite you in here first. And that would be, was it under Marco or Marek? Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to bring him in now. Okay, yes, it's coming through now. Okay. Buzzy.
Security doesn't go from anywhere when it comes out of.
Okay, so we're
Hello.
back with Mr. Kesh here now after
So-
a little interval. Go ahead, Mr. Kesh. What happened there? Not sure if we're gonna I'm not sure if we have a proper connection or not here. Bear with us while we re-engage, or we might have to go and
Well, Dirk did have a question, Rick. Did you want to let Dirk ask a question?
well, sure. Dirk, you had a question?
Could I jump in just for a sec?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm already getting requests for interviews. So if we could maybe check in with Mr. K and find out what his scheduling is and how he wants to go forward with the press, because there will be a really significant backlash. I can feel it.
Well,
Which is a good
mention that there might be a press thing after the workshop. So, or we could even bring people into the workshop if we would like, in terms of Skype or through GoToMeeting.
Okay, so
I can bring one or two more people into the Skype conversation without people having to leave.
Okay, so I would. Okay, let me see how this goes. I'll let you know. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to re-invite.
I think Diva was more meaning about having the ability to have an interview with Mr. Kesh. I think that's what she was meaning. Is that right, Diva?
Yeah, that would be it, Vince.
Right, I understood that, but do you mean immediately now in the conversation, or after after the workshop?
Probably, well, whenever it is convenient for him and when all the bases are covered. So, whenever is most convenient. But as soon as possible.
Well, that could be in the next few minutes if you wish.
If I may
probably.
suggest, usually this workshop was supposed to be technical, so the press could be after that, if I may suggest.
Yeah, that would be generally the way it should go at this point. That's if we can maintain a connection with Mr. Kesh, which we're having trouble with right now. But he may be able to. We can connect by cell phone if necessary, and we can transfer through my microphone by cell phone. So we do have that as a backup. So,
But could you bring it directly into GoToMeeting for not going?
it doesn't have to be directly if you can hear the Skype conversation in GoToMeeting, so that should work.
No, what I was saying is Mr. Kish probably he lost his Skype connection. So I was asking if you can send him the Citrix, the GoToMeeting viewer, so he can join in through the GoToMeeting directly.
Okay, well, we could.
Or by phone, if he has a.
We can certainly try that.
I would suggest by phone. If the internet connection isn't working, it's not just going to be Skype.
Right, that's likely the situation. We could give them that option. I could send.
My humble opinion is that they may block Skype, not that it.
Okay, let me get the information for that, and I'll send it off to them. They can have that option. Otherwise, they will probably. He'll probably call me shortly if they can't get through. So I'll try it. See, where's that? And I will send that to.
May I? We can ask our friends from China to help us out. How to communicate.
Yeah, I don't think that's too helpful right now, but okay, so not
That is-
now, Rick. Dave says not now, Rick. I don't understand that.
Elia suggested to restart as Mr.
Restart
Kesh.
his PC, yeah. Okay, so it.
I would say restart his router too.
So we could send the message through this site.
Well, anybody can hear me?
Yes. Is that is that
Well,
Charles? Is that,
Yeah.
hi,
So I
Charles.
think, as I have been following this knowledge. Actually, when the first video released, which is the road to free energy, that is the Ivan 2011, that presentation, I think there are over, I think nearly million viewers watching that video. Actually, it created kind of buzz, for cache technology. There are a lot of people very excited about the cache technology at that time. But over the past few years, the number of people technology have been dropping very drastically, and as right now, while we are having this workshop here in Taipei, and here on the Chinese channel, which is called YY channel, also have a group of nearly 100 people right now listening to this workshop. So what I want to say is that the reason why there have been a lowering number of people listening to this technology is that people really want to see the this technology is for real. And I think if there is something that can show that this technology is a real thing, I think we can again enhance lift the popularity. More people know this technology, the safer Mr. Cash himself and also authors will be. So I think this is actually a cross the entire population, and let them know that there is a such a way that will make this world a better place. So I think this is very important.
Right now, there's a little discussion
And also,
going on
maybe this is a kind of
with Charles. Charles is talking.
The Skype is
Charles is talking.
The casual talk cannot be speak continuously.
Okay, yeah, she's doing it already, and it's already in contact with many
which is
people.
also
So
a kind of decent
yes, that's happening.
communication software which is used in China. There will be no block at all in this kind of software in China. Talking about this kind of thing, because
I do, but we could do that possibly. Right now, I can hear you, and others could hear too. You can probably hear Charles, right?
People know that the public, the media coverage about
here you should be able to hear now.
Beijing and Shanghai and the rest of the cities in the eastern part of China. It is very serious.
Charles is talking about the situation in China.
People really want to have a kind of real technology that will solve this problem. Because no matter you are a rich person or you're a poor people,
okay, yeah, I believe I have FaceTime. I don't
same
use
air.
that, but we can
So there is no difference in this regard. And
here's FaceTime. Here's FaceTime now.
If
do you have it there?
This technology, you let people know that this is a real thing. You have a very
Hi, I can
quick
see
thing that people know that this is real.
Can you hear me?
Very hard. So that is
Okay.
just some of my
Well,
views about this.
Okay, I'm Dirk. Can I say something?
Dirk's
Hello.
talking now on the call.
Hello.
Yes. Hi, Dirk. Can you hear us here? I have Mayran on the telephone.
Yes, okay. Now I wanted to respond to this gentleman who just spoke from China. Now, to have a real visible thing